Need I say more? Every Monday at this time, you know what happens live from the studios right here in the heart of Victoria Island. I like to say in the heart of the African continent. Because if you look at it rightly, and Lagos be like, it's as if it's in the heart. It's like the trigger of Africa. So yeah, it's the heart indeed. I'm being joined live via Skype by my guests and indeed my co-host today. My co-host, and I'm talking about Dr. Wiebe Boer, who's on the other side looking at me like, Collins, bring me on. Come on, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I just did. What are you waiting for?
All right. Good morning, Collins. Good morning. You really do talk a lot, Collins, but I guess that's your job, so we'll accept it. But you know, I'd like to say, I think myself, like all Nigerians, what happened on Friday, I think we got a good example of what happens when you run out of power. The Super Eagles in the second half.
I mean, really, one hand 4-0. Next thing, I mean, come on, it's very. Yeah, that's exactly the best way.
Me, honestly, the Cameroonian side of you, were you kind of chuckling about that, or you?
No. What, you know, I've been through that all my life. You know, I'll have to choose between. Most times they're playing. Okay, where do I support? Man, I have allegiance to both sides. So where do I support? So what I decided to do is, when it comes to them, except they both playing, I support every African team that plays. If two African teams are playing, of course, if it's not Nigeria against Cameroon, then the choice is clear. But if it's Nigeria against Cameroon, and then let everyone win, man. Anybody can win, actually. Because I could say this one. Right. My mom would just call from Cameroon and say, Collins, And then so, like that. It's always like that. So, man, we're used to it. Wiebe, good to see you, really.
All right. Yeah, good to see you. So let me bring in our guest.
Yeah.
This morning we have a special guest named Sandra Dozie. She's the CEO of Salpha Energy, which is one of the most exciting, fast-growing solar businesses in Nigeria. Okay. And for those of you who can see the screen, who are watching on screen, seeing the video, you can tell that the new trend in solar is to be blonde like me. Yeah. Anyway, but so Sandra, let's kick it off. Thank you for joining. Please tell us about yourself, your career journey, and your background.
So thank you, Collins, and thank you, Wiebe, for this awesome opportunity. Honestly, I listen to the Power Solutions. I always enjoy the insights shared here. And so for me, as all Nigerians, I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. And this was back in the 90s. So at about 7 years old, my family home at the time was built around the business. And so you had, you know, stepping out of the home, 100 meters from the home, you had the factory. And I was 7 years old. I would cycle to this factory and I would see them producing garden chairs, producing hangers, tables, and jerry cans. And I was always curious as to how these factory people were working and what they were doing. And I would ask lots of questions. And then I would cycle again to our blending plants. We blended oil, lubricants. And so I went there and I would see these jerry cans being transported from the plastics factory into the lubricant blending plant. And it was always exciting. I always saw them, you know, filling these cans up, packaging them, going to different customers. I know my mom at the time was a chemist there, and so she was also part of the blending. She used to make perfumes as well. So I would go in there and I was very naughty, always messing around and trying to to learn. And I also went into administration. So I would see them in the admin office, the cash office, counting money. And that was my favorite part of the company, the cash office, for obvious reasons. So anyway, so that sort of shaped my vision for how I saw my life unfolding as an entrepreneur. And I took that curiosity with me into my early education in the UK. I majored in economics and political science, and my master's was in oil and gas economics. So I knew where my life was, how my life was unfolding, where I was going to be. But in a sense, everything changed when I joined the United Nations. And I had a total paradigm shift, and that was how I began my career before joining and founding Salpha.
Impressive. Now, tell us about your current role and how you founded this Salpha Energy.
So I can't speak about Salpha without speaking about my experience at the UN because that really birthed Salpha. At the time, I joined the United Nations during 12 days before the 70th session of the UN General Assembly. And there was a very pivotal time. This was when the 2030 agenda was being launched, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And there was so much excitement. And there were a lot of high-level political forums occurring at the time. And, I got to see someone like Amina Mohammed speaking at one of them. And at the time, she was the special advisor to the SG on the SDG goals. And she finished speaking that day, and I walked up to her and I said to her, you really inspire me by what you do and what you say. And any advice for a young person like me to someday make an impact such as yours? And she just smiled in her usual way. And she just said to me, just keep learning. You're in the right ecosystem, keep learning. And so I took that learning, all through my experience. At the time, the SDGs were being launched and everyone was encouraged to be a goal getter. You had to get a goal, you had to commit, you had to, be a champion. And mine was obvious. Mine was SDG 7. And mine was to ensure, affordable, reliable, sustainable energy across the world. And at that point in time, I began to have a clear understanding of energy outside of oil, because as a Nigerian, you are raised in the way to see energy as oil. So I began to divorce myself from that view. And I began to see that energy actually incorporated energy poverty, energy access, and as well, it had to be clean and modern. And so it gave me a very strong background into being able to found Salpha. And even at the time, I had a lot of mentors there. I had people who would speak to me. For example, the then CEO for SE for All, Candy Umkela. He was a very powerful voice speaking to the youth. And he encouraged the youth to be advocates of change around power. And even Rachel Kite as well, the former CEO of SE for All, she would say things like, the African region stood the most to gain and the most to lose from ensuring access to clean energy. And those words stuck with me. I had my lifelong mentor, His Excellency Ambassador Dennis Antoine of Grenada to the UN, and he would tell me, Sandra, listen to me. The youth are a powerful agent of change towards transformation that unlocks energy from oil. And these stuck with me. These people mentored me, they coached me. I remember my good friend, His Excellency Ambassador Teke Antonio. He was the AU Permanent Observer to the UN, and he would call us into the African Union Secretariat at the US in New York and say to us, come on around, this is the AU's Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. How do you guys see Africa unfolding? And so people really mentored me and gave me this passion to want to do more. And that was, what sort of birthed Salpha in my heart. When I came back to Nigeria, I felt like I was.
All right, I think we lost connection there for a second. I was just enjoying that background information from our guest, Sandra Dozie, who's, of course, speaking to us about the journey into the power sector indeed. And Dr. Wiebe Boer is also on the other side on the Power Solutions right here. Now, for those who are wondering what the conversation is tackling energy poverty through entrepreneurship. And we do have the CEO of Salpha Energy speaking with us before we lost connection there. We hope to reconnect with her and then continue the conversation. I was, going to ask a number of questions. Of course, Wiebe has got a number of questions to ask, also to find out what exactly, her journey and all that. Sometimes you wonder how you see a woman and a young lady, playing in a male-dominated space. It would be interesting to really know what her experience has been, and that looks like it's going to be my next question. Now, for those who probably want to be a part of the broadcast and we want to be an agent of change, and someone who is advocating for power, bringing solutions, advocating for Nigeria to have better power solutions. Yes, that's something you should look into, because the truth is, if that's our biggest problem, then we should have everyone playing in that space. So because if we fix that, we fix Nigeria's biggest problem, right? So, guys, that's just my thought to you. Now, if you do have a comment or question or anything at all that you'd like to, speak to us about concerning, power or concerning the conversation thus far, there she is. She's back. So we try to bring her back. You could bring her back to the mic now to speak to us continuously. But like I was saying, if you do have a question or comment, you could go ahead and send a WhatsApp message or even call us live. The number is 0700 993 993 993. Now, Sandra and Wiebe, welcome back. Just when I was about asking you my next question, and then the connection went off for a few seconds there.
Yeah.
But not to worry, we're fine. They didn't miss a lot because we're able to cover that up. But let's move on to our next question. Really, you were concluding your thoughts about what Wiebe asked you. But I would like to know, as a woman in a male-dominated field, it must have been very challenging to run a company. This should be a great deal, right? How have you been dealing with this to start with?
Honestly, apart from my physical appearance, I don't see being a female as different. And I guess it's because I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, and I saw women who were able to contribute towards that business. It was a group of companies. So I saw them contributing, and those women had a powerful ecosystem of really strong-willed women around them, and they had very supportive partners. And so from a very young age, I'm talking about 3, 4, 5, I saw this going on, and it shaped me, and it made me really see what it could be to work as a human being, not even male or female, towards a cause. And I guess my mom too was a big role model of mine. She had a lot of businesses going on at the time. She was about 25, and she had like 5 other companies she was running, and it was so exciting for me. And so I brought this mindset into the business, and it's helped me ever since. It's really helped me ever since.
All right, Sandra. So Colin, she was saying when we went off that maybe NEPA went off at the station. So
no, never.
But anyway,
never goes off.
Let's
someone will be fired if that happens.
Oh, okay, yeah. So let's go to the next question. So Sandra, we've mentioned Salpha Energy, but we haven't actually talked about like what does Salpha Energy actually do, and what is its role in the in sort of the Nigeria energy mix at this time? And then what is your vision? What is Salpha going to be contributing in 5 years?
Awesome. So for me, I can talk about Salpha without speaking about my team. And so Salpha backwards is alphas. And my team are a group of alphas who are driven for impact. And they are people who are very vibrant, very visionary, and very enthusiastic, who want to make a change. And they are at the forefront of the organization. And the larger goal for Salpha is to be able to unlock and harness the power, the intelligence, and the passion of the youth nationwide, continent-wide, into accelerating clean energy. And that really excites me. But apart from that, Salpha is a company that is geared towards accelerating clean energy across the sub-Saharan Africa. And to do this, we know at the back of our minds that Africa is a region that stands the most to gain and the most to lose from ensuring access to energy. And that's why for us in 5 years, we look strongly at regional integration. It's important that we're able to integrate regionally across the continent to be able to unlock the economies of scale that would accrue as facing and supplying a larger demand. And also the fact that there is no economical development without industrialization. Manufacturing, local assembly is really important to what we do, and we look to scale this up as we progress in the company.
Now, renewable energy has been a better alternative to tackle this problem, but are we doing enough with renewable energy? That's responding to the problem of power, of course, which is why we're here.
Honestly, I think from what I see on the ground, it's really amazing, the players on the ground. But of course, it's a lot of challenges because you see an industry where, first of all, the funding is limited. People aren't able to access the right amount of funding to scale their businesses from the inception stage to growth stage and all of that. And then you also have the fact that the government policies around renewable energy aren't that favorable. And it's really unfortunate because you have companies who are passionate, you have people who want to bring in the impact, but then they are not enabled in that sense. And most unfortunate for me is the economy wide. You see that people's real disposable income is falling. If you look at real GDP adjusted from 1960 till 2020, you would see that the average Nigerian is just 1.7 times better than their cohort in independence, 1960. So it's really unfortunate because solar is a resource that is valuable, but at the same time, the pricing point is the issue. So how do we get these people to afford it if every time there is rising inflation and their incomes are being eroded? We saw this with the recession that we had in 2016. We're seeing the currency crisis. We're seeing COVID-19. So these are the challenges that plague the industry. But at the same time, it is so awesome to see players on the ground who are so dogged. We see people like Oxano, Energy, ACOB, Lumos, Solinta, and these people dig their healing and they're working hard. And even more of a silver lining is impact investors. You see all on USADF, you see RIA, and you see SC4O, just to name a few, who are also like our angels on the side, cheering us on to improve and, do what we do. And we saw this during COVID. We saw this when Allon gave grants to companies who were deploying these solar solutions in medical hospitals. And it was really brought on with so much applause that this could happen in the industry. And so while the industry is still nascent, I still believe that with this sort of level of players in the field, I feel that the sky is the limit in terms of what we can achieve the industry.
All right, Sandra, so the actual topic for today is, and you've sort of spoken to this, is tackling energy poverty in Nigeria through entrepreneurship. So where do we start?
Honestly, I remember founding the business, and I'll be frank and tell you that it's difficult doing business in Nigeria. At that time in 2017, there was the recession, there was a currency crisis, and there was rising inflation. And these are a dangerous cocktail for any buoyant or thriving commercial environment. And so for me, on the one hand, I was founding the business, and on the other hand, I was doing an apprenticeship at Alaba and Idumota markets. And what I was doing there was understudying the market and trying to see the dynamics that were being played around there in terms of products, in terms of my customers who I would retail into, trying to sense how they perceived what we were offering and how we could tweak our services. And frankly speaking, when we say that Nigeria scores 131 on the ease of doing business, you see it on the ground there, and you see the struggle to make it, you see the struggle to survive, you see the struggle to bridge the gap. And even at that, you're seeing that even when there are opportunities available, that people do not have access to them due to ignorance. So you're seeing a knowledge gap. And at the same time, you're also seeing that even when these opportunities are available and people know about them, that there is also a lack of funding. And all these things made me think really deep about how I wanted to tackle energy poverty. I remember coming back home and I had a friend who was doing the solar installation at my home. And I asked him and I said, oh, it's all good and dandy that we have these solar panels on my home. I can afford this. But what about this guy and this lady? And I was pointing to a typical malam, a typical tailor, and I was asking him, how do we ensure that these people can have access to solar? And he looks at me and he's like, honestly, it's difficult. And so for me, I knew that I had to find a niche with tackling energy poverty in Nigeria. And so I targeted the people who were furthest behind, because at the UN, we had this mantra that said, leave no one behind. And that really stuck with me. I didn't want to leave anybody behind. I wanted to carry them first from the furthest behind. And so my team took the time, did the research, and we looked at different products and we thought of how to create a product that would fit our end users' disposable income. And it was very important that we got that right. And in the midst of this, I must say kudos to my team because they were dogged, they were resilient, they were bouncing back. There was all lots of, oh, solar, this is rubbish. Oh, what is this? It doesn't work. And when you hear those things and it's just you trying to fight for a dream, fight for what you see as viable, sometimes it can get demoralizing, but we just brushed it off. We went to war and we really won that. And with our products today, we're so pleased that they are able to serve the end users at the right pricing points. And they're very pleased about that. So that's how I've managed.
What is 2020? By 2030, according to the SDG, the world is expected to see, affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. That's 10 years from now. Now, as an expert and from your experience, do you see Nigeria? Now, this is you and I talking now. Do you see Nigeria achieving this by 2030? Reliable, affordable, sustainable, modern energy for all.
I won't claim to be an expert, but I would, start by looking globally and seeing that, where are we now? The SDGs were launched in 2015, and at that time, over 1 billion people didn't have access to energy. Fast forward to 2020, pre-COVID, and we can see that about 789 million people don't have access to energy. So that has dropped significantly, and we can see improvements. We can also see that about 21 billion so far has gone into energy, 21 billion into developing countries. And that is amazing. Funds are flowing. And at the same time, due to COVID, we've been able to see that 1 in 4 hospitals have access to, energy. And that is a problem. And that is, what we're also trying to tackle as well. But then segueing back to Nigeria, we can see that in 2015, access to electricity was about 55%. And now in 2020, it is about 57%, which looks decent.
I didn't get the number. It said 25% in 2015.
Sorry, in 2015 in Nigeria, we saw energy access rates move up from 55% to 7%.
Oh, 55, 57. Okay.
57%. So which is it's okay. It's at least we're moving, but something interesting happens when you peel and look deeper into the numbers. You see that access rates are increasing, and people who don't have access to energy is also increasing. And so you begin to wonder why. And it's obvious. It's a population play. Nigeria's population is growing at about 2.6% every year. And people in the urban space are getting electrified, and people in the rural spaces are not being electrified. And that's why you have both access and non-access growing. And that's why it's important for renewables to be at the forefront, decentralized energy to be at the forefront, because if you're waiting for the grid to come to rural communities, it's going to take a while, and it's really expensive. And so with that being said, for Nigeria, I'm very optimistic, and I'm very hopeful that if the government is able to support clean energy, renewable energy, that we'll be able to at least meet those goals.
So Sandra, talk to us about how COVID-19 disrupted Salpha Energy's work, and how did you and your team manage through that?
Honestly, for me and my team, fortunately, we've always been a remote team, and that has involved us having to build out our remote working infrastructure. And so for us, even before COVID, we had to always be in real time across different geopolitical zones. And even myself, when I'm in Germany, when I'm in China, and speaking to my suppliers, I always have to be with my team. And so when COVID came, we weren't really disrupted in terms of our communication. We were very fine. And the good thing from COVID was that we were able, thankful to Lagos State government, we were able to get the exemption. And we took our time to see communities that actually didn't have access to power. And we donated free solar home systems to them. And they were really grateful for that. I was really pleased to do that, because sometimes when you're too busy working, we still do this project, but it's always nice to step out and help people and not be scared. So we did that. But at the same time, on the demand side, we noticed that, real disposable income fell for our customers. And we began to see that a lot of demand was moving into our lower entry products. And so our lower entry products were getting a lot of demand. And we began to sit back and think, okay, this is something interesting. How do we build out our SKUs, our SKUs, to be able to grow this kind of products that are very resilient towards difficult times? Because when people don't have access to income, they want the basic, they want lighting and phone charging. They want something that would give them power. So we had to think in that direction. And as well, our business is bootstrap and lean operation. So we were able to rein in costs from the very onset. So that wasn't really difficult for us. And thankful to God, we were able, and we're still scaling through. And thankful to all on, honestly, being a grantee is a miracle, because quite frankly speaking, they threw us a lifeline, because at this point it was more like no one was investing. We went for the conference for Energy Access Impact Summit, and then people were just investing. Everybody was just holding back, and they did that. They invested. And thank you so much. Thank you. So that was how we've been able to move forward.
All right, thank you. All on, reliable, all on. The support, the backup. I mean, I hear this all the time, and I cannot but just lend a voice to your thank you, to say thank you to whoever is all on and whoever is behind there. But Wiebe, I have one more question for her before we go in 20 seconds,
Okay.
Passionate about the youth. What's your advice to young people who are coming into the energy industry, especially women? Because what would you tell them?
I group them together, male or female. We don't see gender here, we see energy. And so I will start by saying, don't listen to any naysayers, don't listen to them. Their voices are loud, and you can find them even in your closest circles. Your family can be a naysayer, your friends can be naysayers. Block the voice out and follow your passion, and that's something I learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger. So for me, that really spoke to me, because I had
the right
people
back.
who was expecting to support me, and they didn't do that. So don't listen to them. And at the same time, build a very powerful team. For me at the UN, people spoke to me. I was a small kid, and they spoke to me, and they were seeing me as this big person. I was like, oh no, that's not me. And they're like, no, I see you being a leader. I see you achieving great things. And they saw me as an oak tree, but I was a little small acorn seed, and that's what I want to do for my team. I want to speak to them. I want to speak into who they could be and pull it out, and that's how I think you should see your team. Don't try and be negative or egotistical. Just be a leader that is actually one that can, drive change. And at the same time, don't focus on money, long-term thinking all the way. That's what I was saying.
All right. Thank you so much, Sandra, for the excellent interview and the content. I know Collins is kicking us out now. So thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. And also to our Super Eagles, please make us proud today.
Please.
Yes, please.
All right.
We're begging you. Thank you so much. Have fun. Next week we'll be here again for Power Solutions. And God bless you all. God bless Nigeria.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
That's it. The news is coming up now. It's Wemimo Adewuni is on standby to deliver the bulletin to you. Would you rather stay tuned?